for the world. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another edition of Hollywood, where the stars shine. This time we are proud to introduce you to one of the most iconic Hollywood stars of all times. Her seal of quality has been so extraordinary that it has remained for so long, since she was very young in the hearts of all those who love cinema. Her name is Elizabeth Taylor.
Elizabeth Taylor as Cleopatra, Siren of the Nile. Her stunning beauty and notorious intrigue turned the tide of civilization. Richard Burton as Mark Antony, rash, impetuous leader of once invincible legion, dreaded adversary on the field of battle. But a pawn in the arms of this woman.
All that I shall ever want to hold, or look upon, or be, or have is here now with you.
Remember that I want you to forget me, please.
Forget? How? I can never be more far away from you than this.
Rex Harrison as Julius Caesar, who ruled half the world by sheer might.
Those ballistas need eliminating. Send out a turtle.
But Caesar's dream of conquest included the ambitious Cleopatra at his side.
Do as you say? Literally? As if I was something you had conquered?
If I choose to regard you as such.
Am I to understand, then, that you feel free to do with me whatever you want? Whenever you want?
Yes, I want that understood.
Dame Elizabeth Rosamond Taylor, February 27, 1932 to March 23, 2011, was a British-American actress. She began her career as a child actress in the early 1940s, and was one of the most popular stars of classical Hollywood cinema in the 1950s. She then became the world's highest-paid movie star in the 1960s, remaining a well-known public figure for the rest of her life. In 1999, the American Film Institute named her the 7th greatest female screen legend of classic Hollywood cinema. Her parents were originally from Arkansas. Frances Taylor was an art dealer, and Sarah was a former actress whose stage name was Sarah Southern. Southern retired from the stage in 1926, when she married Francis in New York City. Taylor's names are in honor of his paternal grandmother, Mary Elizabeth Rosamond Taylor. One of his maternal great-grandparents was Swiss. At the age of 3, Taylor began taking ballet lessons. Shortly before the start of World War II, her parents decided to return to the United States to avoid hostilities. She traveled first with her mother and brother, landing in New York City in April 1939, while her father stayed in London to conclude affairs in his art business, arriving in November. The family moved to Los Angeles, where Mrs. Taylor's own family lived. Mr. Taylor followed them shortly thereafter. A family friend found Elizabeth extremely beautiful and suggested that they take her to a screen test. Her test impressed Universal Pictures executives enough to sign her to a contract. Her first foray into the screen was in the movie There's No One Born Every Minute, when she was only 10 years old. Universal cancelled her contract after this movie, but MGM did not take long to hire Elizabeth. The first movie she shot with that studio was Lassie Come Home, and thanks to it, MGM contracted her for a whole year. She had small roles in her next two films, The White Cliff of Dover in 1944, and Jane Eyre in 1943. The first was made while under contract with 20th Century Fox.
Such things.
But I would!
Eat your bread, Jane.
Then came the movie that made Elizabeth a star, MGM's National Velvet in 1944. She plays Velvet Brown alongside Mickey Rooney. The film was a great success, raising more than $4 million.
What does it feel like to be in love with a horse?
I want to be a famous rider. I should like to hunt, ride to hounds. I should like to race. Did the pie win the Grand National?
Velvet Brown, who do you think you are?
Well, I'm the owner of the pie.
And does that give you leave to go poking your head out amongst the stars? Believing you could take the richest, grandest prize a horse ever won?
A Grand National. Large dream for a little girl.
Elizabeth now had a long-term contract with MGM, and was now a shining infant star. She made no films in 1945, but returned in 1946, with Courage of Lassie, another big hit.
And with the passing days, the bonds of affection between them grew stronger.
You see, a man goes to church to talk to a God that he can't see. But a dog, he can see his God, your Bill's God, and all he wants is to love you and have you tell him what you want him to do.
It's a very odd feeling to be someone's good.
In 1947, when she was 15 years old, she starred in Life with Father with established stars such as William Powell, Irene Dunne, and Seizu Pitts, being one of the blockbusters of the year. She also co-starred in the movie Little Women, that was also a box office success. Throughout the decade of the 50s, Elizabeth appeared in several films, with very good results, starting with the George Stephen film, A Place in the Sun in 1951. Co-starring his good friend Montgomery Clift. The following year she starred in Ivanhoe, 1952, one of the biggest box office successes of the year. Her busiest year was in 1954 when she had a supporting role in the box office failure, Beau Brummel. However, in that same year 1954, she had success in two films, The Last Time I Saw Paris, and The Elephant Walk. Now she was 22 years old, and yet, despite her young age, she was considered one of the great beauties of the world. In 1956 she co-starred in the blockbuster Giant, with James Dean. Although the film was released in 1956, James Dean never saw its premiere, as he died in a car accident at the end of the 1955. The next year 1957, Elizabeth starred with Montgomery Clift in Raintree County, an exaggerated epic, partially filmed in Kentucky. Critics called Clift dry as dust. Clift was injured during the filming of the film and Elizabeth helped save his life. Despite the film's shortcomings and off-camera tragedies, Elizabeth was nominated for an Academy Award for her portrayal of Southern beauty Susanna Travey. However, on the night of the awards the Oscar went to Joan Woodward, for her performance in The Three Faces of Eve. This was in 1957. In 1958, Elizabeth played Maggie Polliet in the film Cat on a Hot Tin Roof. The film was very well received by critics, and again Elizabeth received a nomination for Best Actress. Once again, the brilliant actress was left to the expectations after the nomination, but this time, she lost to Susan Hayward with the movie I Want to Live, in 1958.
I feel all the time like a cat on a hot tin roof.
Then jump off the roof, Maggie, jump off.
Elizabeth Taylor is Maggie the Cat, a girl too hungry for love to care how she goes about getting it.
I don't mind making a fool of myself over you.
Well, I mind. I feel embarrassed for you.
Feel embarrassed. But I can't live on this way.
Now, you agreed to accept that condition.
I know I did, but I can't.
Paul Newman vividly plays the emotionally tormented football hero.
However, it was still a fashionable product in the world of cinema. In 1959 she appeared in another mega-hit, and received another Oscar nomination for Suddenly the Last Summer. But, to the surprise of many people, she lost the nomination again, this time, to Simone Signoret for Room on the Top in 1958. Her Oscar drought ended in 1960, when she received the Academy Award for Best Actress for her participation in the film Butterfield 8, in the role of Gloria Guancos, a prostitute who sleeps with a married man. Some of the critics were not very happy with the reviews, however they couldn't ignore her great performance. There were no more movies for Elizabeth for the next 3 years. She left MGM after her contract ended, but Elizabeth left the doors open with this studio for later. In 1963 she starred in Cleopatra, one of the most expensive productions of the time, as well as her salary that at that time reached the juicy sum of $1 million. The film took years to complete, due to various factors, including a serious illness for which Elizabeth was on the verge of death. This was the movie where she met her fifth husband Richard Burton. The previous marriages were to Conrad Hilton, Michael Wilding, Mike Todd who died in a plane crash, and Eddie Fisher. In 1959 Elizabeth Taylor converted to Judaism and embraced the Jewish religion for the rest of her life, actively participating in Jewish causes. After the death of her great friend and actor Rock Hudson, she started a campaign in favor of AIDS patients. In the decade of the 90s she successfully made investments in fragrances and her career as an actress stopped. With the exception of occasional appearances on television as a guest star. Elizabeth Taylor died in Los Angeles, California on March 23, 2011 from heart failure. Her final resting place is at Forest Lawn Memorial Park in Glendale, California. One of his maternal great-grandparents was Swiss.